Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Pittsburgh Sports Memories. As usual, I'm your co-host Steve Wirt, and I'm joined by,
I'm Tim Hannon.
and we're gonna get right into it. We're gonna start with hockey. Gotta love that hockey. Let's do this hockey, Tim. Um, the Penguins, they last Friday and Saturday they played a back-to-back after coming back from where was it? Sweden. They got blown out by the Wild 5-0. And then on Saturday they lost to the Kraken. The Kraken. The Kraken was unleashed on them. Unfortunately, in overtime they lost 3-2. So I think they still got a point. They got 1 point out of 2 games out of a possible 4. So that's not good. And now they are in the worst. I think this is the worst possible situation that the Penguins could be in my opinion. You say, well, why is that, Steve? Well, that's because they are 1 point out of the playoffs. And so they're like not really good enough to make the playoffs, but they're not really bad enough to get any kind of draft pick. So I think it's getting time to fish or cut bait here for Dubas probably this week. This is probably they play this week the traditional game before Thanksgiving. The result of that game might determine because if they win that, maybe they're in a playoff position, but just barely. I don't know. They got to pick. It's kind of like two roads diverged in the wood. Which path are you going to take there, Mister Robert Frost? So I think you got to make up your mind. If you're going to go all in on this season, just go all in, play the kids, play the Russian goaltender the rest of the way. If you're not going to, then just play what's Silvas and Jari or play Jari all the time. You'll definitely get a high draft pick then. What say you, Tim?
Yeah, I think you're right. It is kind of they started off so good. Now they're kind of coming back to earth. And I don't know what you do with this season because they have been playing the kids too. You know what I mean? It's not like they've
Yeah.
and they just called up Tristan Bras, who was one of those guys that yeah, a lot of people thought should have made the team coming out of camp. So they are doing that. And then like even if you were tanking the season, I don't know that you want to play Morishov the whole season because you don't want to kill him or destroy his confidence. I think they'll probably just keep going like they're going and then let the chips fall where they may. But I'm with you. I'd much rather be much rather if we're not going to make the playoffs, I'd much rather have a shot at McKenna. And right now they're too middle of the road to have a shot at McKenna.
Yeah, I really think just play Jari the rest of the way and send
Yeah.
everybody back to the AHL. And you know, if you're like 1 point in or 1 point out, I think that's the answer with this team. But that's why Kyle Dubas gets paid big bucks to make these decisions. And I'm talking on a podcast.
Very true.
All right, football palooza, Tim. Are you ready for it? So the Steelers, Tim, they lost to the Bears. Can you believe it? Wow, it's like they've only ever won there once.
Yeah.
Still haven't won since that magical year of 1995 when Neil O'Donnell outdueled Eric Kramer. Boy, there's 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks, huh? Yeah, it's a bad loss, I think. Especially because I felt like the defense shut down the Bears running game for the most part. But unfortunately, they couldn't stop the passing game. And what also hurt was that there was some refereeing silliness. And it kind of like I didn't think it really played a part in the game because I thought it kind of they evened it out. Like there was that like ghost fumble by the Bears. Like I don't think that really was a fumble. I don't know what they were doing. They just like, well, we'll give it to the Steelers. The guy came out of the pile. Who knows? And then there was that play where I thought initially Hayward was stopped, but they didn't blow the whistle.
Yeah, that was a weird play because it looked like he got the first down and they're like, nope, nope, too late. It's like, wait,
Well,
you
even
didn't
on the
give him.
play before, it looked like Gainwell had the first down.
Yeah.
So I think that was a makeup call. I really do.
Don't forget too the one time where we pinned them at like the 4 yard line, and they had a penalty that moved them back even more on a punt. And then they came back from commercial and they were like, while we were gone, the referee announced that he messed it up. It was actually on the Steelers, and they have to punt again. And it's like, what? Like the refs have just not brought their A game this year. But that you're right. It didn't impact the game really.
What did impact the game was costly turnovers. So, Mason Rudolph throws an early interception. It wasn't great, but I didn't feel it was egregious, if I can use that word. What really hurt them was him fumbling late in the game. Like, I don't know that that was completely his fault. Like, it was a forced error. It wasn't an unforced error. I think his hand hit off it. Looked like it hit off somebody's helmet. Like, because he like, you watch the play and he wraps up the ball, and it looks like maybe as he was going down, he hit off of somebody's helmet and the ball went flying out. And that was really, that cost them the game. And, also the defense's inability to stop. You are allowed to play defense after that turnover. And if you hold them to a field goal, it would have been a touchdown game, because I think the Bears were only leading by 4 at that point when he fumbled. So, when the Steelers finally did score a touchdown, at least it's a tie game, or it's, within a point or two. So I don't know what to say about that. And then the really egregious error, wow, I'm using the word egregious a lot today, Tim, is the late penalty. That penalty, that's coaching. I'm sorry. You have to be able to line up correctly. And that was another play where Mason Rudolph ran for like 20 yards, and they were in business at the 50-yard line. Now, maybe the Bears tighten up on defense like they eventually did, and the Steelers don't get any more yards. But I don't know. I really felt like the Steelers had momentum, and that wiped it out.
Yeah, that hurt. Just too many mistakes. Like you also forgot Duggar dropping that interception. It was like right in his arms.
Well, there was like 2 or 3 of those. And that, you catch just 1 or 2 of them, and, maybe, I don't know.
I said this 2 weeks ago. I'm going to keep saying it because we keep forgetting it every time they win, and then I'm trying to remind myself every time they lose, and everybody overreacts. It's just not a good team. It's an average. It's a slightly better than average team. The roster composition at the beginning of the season indicated that it was a slightly better than average team. Maybe they could have overachieved. Maybe Aaron Rodgers, unlocked some potential that he still has, and he was doing that in some games. Maybe the defense plays better like they had been the last 3 weeks. Did not play well last week, um, but it's just not that good of a team. And that's like I said, like we got all messed up because I think we all, well, not all of us, but I think many of us kind of expected that at the beginning of the season, that it wasn't that good of a team. But then Burrow got hurt, and the Ravens started out 1-5, and it's like, oh, wait a second, maybe this is an opportunity. Maybe there's a door wide open for us to do something here, and so that I think that confused things. If the Ravens would have just been good all year and the Bengals would have been good all year, and we would have been hovering right around 500 like we are now, I don't know that anybody would have been super surprised, Steve.
Well, I just think what bothers me is that not lining up correctly, like that shouldn't happen.
That's what teams that aren't very good do. Like they're an average team.
And I tell you another thing that drove me, like, and maybe it's just the way the flow of the game went, but the Bears had a ton of injuries. Like, what were they playing? Like their 5th string linebacker?
Yeah, and they didn't.
And they
attack
couldn't
the
take
middle of the
advantage
field.
of it.
Yeah, that was bad. The coaching was not good. So you're right. The coaching was not good on
Well,
Sunday.
I don't know if it was the flow of the game. Like the points got out of hand. Like when they got 10 down 10 late in the third, like you really couldn't run the ball like you should. Because, like, I thought the play calls were right for a lot. Like, they're running to the sidelines a lot. And it's like, well, when a team doesn't really have linebackers, that's what you want to do, or run at them. But, and I guess I think the Bears just kept everybody back, and we're like, well, we'll let you, slowly drive the field, but you're not going to get any big plays. But the Steelers this year have so rarely had big plays over the middle. I mean, maybe when Rodgers in there, somewhat, but it's all dink and dunk. And it just, well, let's go with you want to go through the Mike Tomlin late season checklist? It's in full effect now. No speed or downfield throws on offense, check. Defense, they could make some plays, but not enough. once again, didn't stop the Bears after the turnover. Drop a game to the team you should beat, lose the lead in the division, have injuries to key starters, dink and dunk offense. There we go. I think Mike Tomlin is, who is that? Who said they are who we thought they are? the late Dennis Green.
Yeah, again, that's not sure why why anybody would have expected a lot more from the roster they put together this year. It's an average roster, and the dink and dunk stuff. To your point, they really haven't.
They don't have any speed. They like Calvin Austin has been disappointing. He's supposed to be their speed guy, and they just don't have any off.
They haven't had an offense that really since pre Ben's injury. That was the last time they had an offense that was capable of doing the stuff you're talking about. Yeah, I don't know how much of that is coaching and how much of that is personnel. And they just haven't had the personnel. They've either had like past their prime quarterbacks and mediocre receivers and so yeah, they're just not getting it done. Again, I keep going back to it's just it's not a real good team. And they'll confuse things more because they'll do something surprising, like they'll beat Buffalo, they'll beat Baltimore in the next 2 weeks, and then everybody will once again be like, "Oh,
when do they play Cleveland?" Because I guarantee you, they make like Shedeur Sanders look like a Hall of Famer, and it's just going to be unbearable.
Well, possibly. I mean, again, you never know. It's like
you could see that happening. Could you not see that happening, Tim? Like everybody, they win the next 2 weeks. I was like, oh, they're in the driver's seat, and then they go into like play Cleveland, and like Cleveland, like
well, they play Miami. They play Miami after the next 2 weeks. So, I could see them just taking on a bad team and then crapping the bed. Like this is going to be one of those seasons. I said it to my dad at the Indianapolis games. I'm like, oh, this is one of those seasons. It'll be one of those seasons, Steve, that if we were still doing this podcast in 20 years, we'd be like, remember that season where Aaron Rodgers was a quarterback and we beat, the best team in the AFC one week, and then we'd, be garbage the next week. And we haven't really lost to bad teams. So I will say that. I mean, like the Bears are a first place team. The Chargers, the Packers, like the teams we're losing to are good teams. It's not like we're losing to the 2-10 teams. So your Mike Tomlin late season checklist doesn't have the
Browns. Don't worry, the Browns game is coming, Tim. The Browns game is coming.
but it's not that we're like beating good teams, losing bad teams. It's we're playing pretty good teams every week, but some weeks we show up and we're really crisp, even inside games. Like they ran that fake tush push to Kenny Gainwell. That was a brilliant play call. They were going and they took the lead with that. So like even inside of a game, TJ Watt made that fumble strip in the end zone. Yeah. Like they make these like plays and they look really sharp and they look really crisp. And then they come out in the second half and they revert back to like the Packers defense, the Bengals first game defense, where they can't cover any receivers. So it's like you never know what you're going to get. And again, that's the mark of an average team. You just, sometimes they can be really good, sometimes they aren't. They're not consistent enough to be real contenders.
So are they going to beat the Bills? I don't know. I think they can stop the run. They stopped the Bears running game, but I think the problem is they have too many guys can either do one or the other thing. They can't do both. Like Duggar's good against the run, but he's not great against the pass. Peyton Wilson's good against the pass, but not good against the run. That other linebacker, 50, is good against the run, but not good against the pass. And I think, a team like the Bills might expose that, especially with Josh Allen running the ball out of passing sets and stuff. So I don't know, but the Bills aren't that great either, though. I mean, the Bills have had a lot of bad losses too. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if they won. I don't expect them to, but again, the way the season's going, you like I said, you never know what team's going to show up, and or if they'll just not be good again because they're playing such a dynamic offense. And if they lose next week, they're going to be in real trouble because
that's an AFC loss. Yeah.
Well, and they'll be if depending on what Baltimore does, they could be a full game behind Baltimore going into the Baltimore game. And that's that's not going to be good either. I don't think they're good enough to. If you look at the wild card race, man, there's a lot of teams
that are
hovering
six
around
and
that,
five.
yep,
Yeah,
6-5 mark. So they've really got to keep the lead in the
including
division.
teams they've lost to already. So
Correct. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. I think we're heading for 8-9 or 9-8. I really think that's where we're headed for. But we'll see.
well, moving on to a team that I mean, they're not quite as puzzling as the Steelers. Pitt football, Tim. Woohoo!
Yeah, big win there.
Yeah, they beat Georgia Tech. So that game against Notre Dame really didn't matter so far. Um,
I hate when Pat Narduzzi's right. That's really infuriating.
um, so they had a 28 to nothing lead in the second quarter, Tim, and then they had a 28-14 lead at the half. And then a 35-28 lead with 5 minutes to go. And I'm thinking this might be the end of Pat Narduzzi's coaching career because he called a fourth and 9. He called a fake punt when they were up by 2 touchdowns instead of just freaking punting the ball with 7 minutes left to go in the game. Just punt the ball. And if you just play a modicum of defense and make them drive the length of the field and take like 3 or 4 minutes off the clock, whatever, right? But Jakari Turner had another 50-yard run because Georgia Tech's defense stinks, and that salted the game away. Yeah, Mason Heichel had a great comeback game. He was 20-26 for 227 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. That's been the biggest difference in this team with their winning streak is Eli Holstein was throwing a lot of interceptions, and this kid has really, for a freshman, been pretty careful with the football for the most part. Like I said, Turner had an awesome game, 201 yards, 9.6 yards a carry. The defense played solid, stopped the run pretty much most of the game. They give up 28 points, and you're like, that isn't that great, but it isn't. I don't know. Like, and they made plays when they needed that Lovelace or whatever. It made that interception that probably really should have sealed the game. Like I said, why do you understand the call on a 4th and 9 and you're on your own 40? Why you're faking a punt with 7 minutes to go?
No, I mean Narduzzi even said that was dumb. He even said that.
He
So
goes from one extreme to the other. He's either way too conservative or way too aggressive. Like
yeah,
you
that's a
got to
good way
pick
to
your
describe it.
spots, and that wasn't a spot to pick. I could see if like they had all the momentum maybe, and you take a chance if you see something, but just punt the ball away. And they weren't a passing team. They're not a passing team. Georgia Tech is not. They're a running team, and make them run their offense and take 4 or 5 minutes off the clock. And if they score with 3 minutes left, you're pretty much down. Like they're down to getting an onside kick at that point, or if you can get a first down, you know.
Yeah, they kept throwing that graphic on the screen about how like ACC teams
Yeah,
are 0 and 342 when down by 28 points or more. And I'm like, oh my God, Pitt's gonna blow a 28-point lead. Pitt, they're gonna do it. Somebody tweeted at us on Twitter in the middle of that game, like, oh, this is gonna be another Pitt loss, isn't it? I mean, everybody was feeling that. But fortunately, yeah, they came through. And Turner, boy, what a surprise he was. He he came. I mean, he looked really sharp, and he finished the game. He actually played a whole game. Imagine that from a running back.
well, yeah. That's and they have that other running back who's more of a thumper, more of a big gig. I think what you're seeing, like, because this team seems to go through lulls in the game, and I think you have a young quarterback and a young offensive coordinator that need to figure out a little bit more consistency and
Yeah,
get a little more killer instinct. That especially the coordinator, like sometimes it's okay to go on a 4-minute drive, and sometimes it's a good thing, especially late in the game. You're just trying to get first downs. You're not necessarily trying to score. So maybe it's just part of the growth of the quarterback and the coach. So we'll see what happens. I think if Pitt would have lost that game, Narduzzi probably would have got fired.
I don't think he would have got fired. He's
Tim
way
blowing a
beyond that.
28-0 lead game in a
Yeah,
game they
but
had
that's
to
a little
have.
extreme. I mean, we're not Penn State.
I think he wouldn't have survived this. I don't think you survive that. I don't know how you survive that unless he beat Miami and did something crazy. I don't know.
I just think it's so exciting that we're coming into the last game of the season
And it
with a
means
shot at the
something.
postseason. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty cool.
I will say this: Carson Beck for the Miami Hurricane is who they're playing. They're playing Miami now at noon at Heinz Field. I think it's going to be cold, right, Tim? I think the weather is going to
Yeah.
be cold, so I'll
Yep.
be there freezing my butt off, watching Pitt get blown out, probably by Miami, because Pitt has beaten Miami 4 times in the last 30 years. Tim, how about them apples?
And Carson Beck's pretty good, but that Haynes King kid for Georgia Tech, he was supposed to be a Heisman candidate, and we made him
I don't
look
think
pretty
he was.
embarrassing.
I think he was a running quarterback. He not. He had 10 touchdowns passing. Tim, he's not bad, but I think he reminds me of who was that guy from Wake Forest, Sam Hartman. He very much reminded me of him.
Yeah.
Like a solid college quarterback, more of a runner than a passer, careful with the football, except for that first interception was god awful on his part. And but Pitt's probably more going to be more of a spoiler here than actually making. I mean, I don't see SMU or Virginia. Either one of those teams has to lose, and I don't see SMU losing to Cal. And I think Virginia Tech isn't good, but that's a rivalry game, so that
Yeah.
might be the game that if there's going to be an upset, that'll probably be that game.
That's what I thought too. I thought if there's any chance it'll probably be Virginia losing to Virginia Tech, but we'll know that game's not until the evening. So we'll
Yeah,
kind of know whether it matters or not. Pitt has to beat Miami first.
yeah.
But boy, that wouldn't that be something if they were in the ACC
And
championship
I
game?
think I think SMU has the best quarterback in the ACC. Quite honestly,
Yeah,
and
yeah, and
that's
SMU is really hot right now. I
yeah.
mean, Pitt's chances of getting in the college football playoff are pretty tough. I mean, they'd have to beat Miami, get help, and then beat SMU or Virginia in the championship game. But again, the fact that it's even possible is pretty cool. After you would have never thought that when they were 2-2.
Yeah.
I mean, my
Losing to
goodness.
their losses, yeah, that West Virginia loss looks bad. And
Yeah.
Louisville's kind of come back down to earth. Although Louisville beat Miami, so
And the way that they lost both of those games, they didn't need to lose either one. And
yeah.
especially the Louisville game. I mean, that was the worst. I keep going back to
Well, they
that.
lost West Virginia in overtime too. So
Right. That's what I mean. It's like they Notre Dame, they just got outplayed fine. That's is what it is. But both of the games you mentioned, those early season losses, they should have won both of those. And the Louisville one, like I said, if they win that, I don't know. I don't know what happens if they lose to Miami and beat Louisville in terms of the tiebreakers. But I know that right now, the reason they lose the tiebreaker to SMU and Virginia is because the common opponents for those three teams are Stanford and Louisville. And we all beat Stanford, and everybody but us beat Louisville. And that's why we lose the tiebreaker.
yeah, geez.
So like we should have lost, like losing to Syracuse would have been better than losing to Louisville. It's just the way it shook out, unfortunately.
Well, we'll see what happens on Saturday, Tim. We'll either be, because it could work out where Pitt beats Miami and it doesn't matter, both SMU and Virginia win. Or it could be mass chaos where SMU and Virginia both lose, Miami wins, and then I don't know who gets in. I don't know. Florida State? I don't know.
Not Florida State.
Boston College with no wins. So the Riverhounds, Tim, there's a new champion in Pittsburgh. Can you believe it? Woo, woo. They won their USAL championship, first title in 26 years, first championship in Pittsburgh since 2017. The game was really wild. I mean, I know people like scoring, but it was excited. There was a lot of plays around the net. The goalie for the Riverhounds, Eric Dick, had to make a ton of saves he made like 6 or 7 saves. He made one where like he literally like the guy he kicked it into his one arm, and then it hit off his middle chest. He had to make like 2 saves on this guy while they were both jumping in the air. It was really impressive performance by him. And then, I had a feeling when they went to penalties, because the Riverhounds kind of ran out of gas on offense, like 3/4 of the way through the game. You're like, they probably aren't going to score a goal now. But once it got the penalty kicks, I thought, you know what? I think the Riverhounds got the advantage because they had the better goalie, and he made 1 save and the other guy didn't make any. So here we go, championship. I don't know where the championship parade is. I think they might be going to the Penguins game this week. Maybe it's going to go right down Broadway Avenue. Las Palmas is a sponsor. So I'm sure Tim will be there in all his Riverhounds gear, yelling, "Go Hounds." Woo!
Yep.
Right,
yeah,
Tim?
all those games I went to this season to support them, it really, really helps.
Really paid off.
Yeah. No, good for them. That's awesome. And how many years have they been around?
26.
Yeah.
And this is their first championship of
Yep.
any kind. They played in high school stadiums. They didn't know when they would even exist. Now they're going to build the stadium even bigger. Into 2028, then this is interesting. So if this was 2028, guess what? They'd be promoted to the top division of this league. They are right now in the championship, which is the second division of this league. So there's kind of like in soccer, there's a weird thing going on. There's like the MLS, which everybody knows about. And then there's this USL, which the Riverhounds play in. And the MLS will not go to promotion and relegation, but the USL is. So I'm wondering if they're trying to like do an AFL, NFL thing where they're going to try and force a merger with the MLS at some point. So that would make it a true soccer pyramid where the MLS would be the Premier League, the top league, and you could get into that by winning. So that would be interesting. That would be fun.
That would be pretty cool. And I think you'd get a lot more people in Pittsburgh interested if you had an MLS team, honestly.
Yeah, they sold out. They had 6,000 fans, which isn't bad. They had 9,000 fans in Oklahoma because they had to play in Tulsa.
Right.
But Tulsa plays in a minor league baseball stadium. And so we'll see. But well, that's it for this episode. We got to celebrate with the championship, Tim. That's why we ended on a positive note, on a championship note, Tim. And we thank you all for listening. Enjoy this as we continue through our football season, and we'll probably be celebrating a Steelers 9-8 season, Tim.
Yay!
And a Pitt appearance in the college football playoff. What if that happens? And we should are we going to go jump in the river or something if that happens?
That would be the most unlikely thing of all time. But again, cool that it's at least possible.
Well, like I said, thank you for listening. Check us out on Spotify, all the other podcast services, Facebook, pick us up on Twitter. We always enjoy the comments and views, and thank you, and we'll catch you next time.